Imagine being called weird, ugly, and skinny while you're trying to pursue your dreams. That's what Peter Crouch heard throughout his journey. Standing at over 2 meters tall, he stood out from childhood, but not in the way you might imagine. He was the center of attention, but also the target of cruel jokes and insults, leading his father to get into fights to protect him from hatred and cruelty. His mother, on the other hand, couldn't even watch her son's games, such was her suffering. However, this was just the beginning. In his first professional match, the stadium came down, with people laughing and singing songs mocking his appearance. They thought I was a joke. It was the day when many would have considered throwing in the towel and giving up on their dreams, but not him. He turned things around, turned the hatred into motivation, and is still one of the players with one of the most impressive records in the history of the Premier League, the most competitive league on the planet. But how Peter Crouch transformed his image from one of the most mocked players in England into an extremely beloved figure in the country, that's what I'm going to show you in this video. I used to dream of living that as a player, but I knew the path to the professional level was distant. My height made me appear so different from the other players that it seemed almost impossible. Peter's words. Peter was the only one among all the boys in the youth category who didn't have the characteristics of a player, according to his own coaches. He seemed to be there just as an extra piece to complete the squad. His journey began in the youth team of Tottenham. The coach of the under-18 team shared his first impressions when he saw Peter coming out of the dressing room heading to the field. I looked at that kid and thought to myself, this will be our future center forward. It can't be. It seems unbelievable, but at that time, he seemed to have no chance at all. A somewhat odd, tall kid, and jokes were a constant part of his life. That kid had every reason to retaliate due to his height. However, he chose a different approach and used humor as his weapon against these insults. If you weren't a footballer, what would you be? Although Peter wasn't a spectacular player, he had something that few athletes had: courage and remarkable mental strength. No one would ever be able to shake his dream. Peter Crouch went through various clubs after leaving Tottenham until he finally reached the Rangers in England. It was in this setting that he faced one of the most challenging moments of his career, a trial by fire. It was his first season in professional football, and the coach called him to make his debut. But then, suddenly, the dream turned into a nightmare. What's that skinny idiot going to do? It's surprising. But Peter's father had anticipated this challenge that his son would face long before it happened. He had prepared his son in advance for this challenging moment. I used to tell him, "You're a very nice person. If you want to be a player, you have to be tough. Football is an incredibly competitive and challenging environment, and that was the world Peter was about to enter. As a father, I was preparing him for what was to come. But he didn't fully understand his father's advice. However, everything changed on the day of his professional debut, and all those pieces of advice started to make sense. Peter Crouch was called, and the stadium simply stopped. The entire crowd began to laugh and sing songs mocking him. I walked in, and suddenly I hear that crowd laughing at me. It was purely because of my appearance. They had never seen me play. At that moment, it was an overwhelming impact for a young boy of just 19 years old. He automatically hid during the whole game, avoiding touching the ball most of the time. Such was the atmosphere of that day. After the match, his father printed several articles criticizing Peter as a way to motivate and encourage his son. Sometimes I would cry at night, and there were times when I almost gave up completely. However, it was in the dream and amid these challenges that hopes for a better future emerged, as some teams still showed interest in signing me. Peter left the Rangers with 12 goals in 42 matches before joining Portsmouth, where he had one of the best years of his career. His arrival at this English club was seen as an extremely risky gamble. The football director of Portsmouth at the time even said, "People told me, 'You're crazy. You paid £1.5 million for a basketball player.' That's a lot of money at that time." But I believed in the kid. And there I realized that he had to work harder than all the other players because he was so different. It was at that moment that Peter Crouch found his best version and began to shine brightly on the pitch. Applause. Note, I'm putting all my money on him now. Peter left the club with 19 goals in 39 games, earning the title of the club's Player of the Season for the 2001 and 2002 season. He then spent 4 consecutive seasons at Aston Villa, becoming the most expensive signing in the club's history. However, he couldn't live up to the expectations, and in the summer of 2004, he moved to Southampton. What's most surprising is that, at every team he joined, his first words in press conferences were always dedicated to justifying his height. Such was the impact of his trauma. I realized that my height could be a weapon against the opponents, Peter said. Over there, the media headlines changed drastically. The articles that used to mock his height began to praise his stature. What was previously a problem for the media turned into a solution, as Peter Crouch not only stood out as an exceptional player with his feet, but also with his head. He was gradually becoming the player with the most headed goals in the history of the Premier League. At Southampton, he scored 16 goals in 33 matches. His impressive performances earned him a call-up to the English national team and caught the attention of Liverpool, which signed him for the following 3 seasons. But now I want to know your opinion. Do you remember this incredible player on the field? Write it down here in the comments because I want to know. Also, be sure to leave a like, which helps us continue to bring new content like this. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss new videos. A big hug and see you next time.